Hello, everyone. Ron here from L.T.L Tutoring Central, and I am back with a reading comprehension and discussion article. This is a science article about lifelong learning. Seems perfect for me. I'm always encouraging people to keep learning. It doesn't matter whether you're in grade school, high school, college, university, adult, senior, whatever stage of life you're in. It's always fantastic to keep learning. So I have not read this article yet. I hope it's a good one. If it's a really bad one, well, you won't see this video, but if it's a reasonable one or if it's a really good article, I will pop it up on the line anyway. I'll make a few comments as we read through if I have anything much to say about it. But of course, you can let me, I think I'm popping here, you can let me know in the comments what you think of this particular article. I'll put a link in the description to the article so that you can go there yourself as well, but you can follow along as I read through it now in a few minutes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the channel. It really does help a lot. I'll apologize already if I have to cough throughout the article. I'll try not to, but it's something that keeps happening for whatever reason for the last couple of years, actually. But I'll do my best. And on a first read through too, sometimes I'm going to trip up or make some mistakes. It's always hard when you're first coming in cold. But I don't usually edit. I usually just keep on going because mistakes are a part of life. It's a learning model. Anyway, also in the description, there are links to my books. And yes, my study skills book talks about lifelong learning, about how you don't have to stop learning, and how you can keep on learning forever by teaching yourself. And we are our own best teacher. We use teachers and professors and books and videos and podcasts and everything to learn. Travel is a good way as well. But when it comes down to it, it's us. It's up here in our brain. And if we're not engaged, if we're not available, then we're not going to learn very much at all. And if we are, well, we'll do the best we can. We're all different. We're not all going to learn at the same pace, or we're not all interested in the same material, but we can improve and we can grow. Anyway, I don't want to say too much because I'm not sure what's going to be said here. I'm going to share my screen now so that we can get into this article. So available online, www.sciencedirect.com, Procedia Social and Behavioral Sciences, Science Direct, Fifth World Conference on Educational Sciences, Continuing Education, Lifelong Learning, Marjan, Laal, Ashkan, Laal, Arsalan, Aliramaei. I'm not sure. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, so I'll apologize for that. Tehran University of Medical Sciences, Tehran, Iran. Okay, abstract. The term of lifelong learning stands for a consistency in learning over one's life in and beyond formal educational settings. That means there are many common ways in which learning takes place. Like children and adolescents that have developmental needs as learning needs, adults do too. Today, there is an increasingly important need to continue education and acquire necessary skills to adapt to the ever-changing world. It is the purpose of this paper to enable one to realize the concept of the term and understand deeply the importance of gaining knowledge and being updated through presenting its potential benefits. The paper describes the three types of formal, non-formal, and informal learning. Continuing education leads to skills, academic, and personal developments, which are discussed in the article. I'm not going to read all the small text. I'll leave that up to you if you should like to do so. Introduction. Before 1980, learning had not been viewed as a lifelong process. At this time, Malcolm Shepard Knowles, the father of adult learning, stated that lifelong learning, or L.L.L, would become the organizing principle of all education, and the term of lifelong learning is now commonly used in educational conversation. Continuing education, or CE, professional development, and lifelong learning are synonyms that all refer to an educational or training process in which the main essential tool for an organization to succeed. Development of continuing education and the adult education were in the 20th century. As the countries got to be industrialized, and there's some spelling or word choice issues here, the demand for continuing education and achieving necessary skills has been aroused. challenging previous educational venues and creating opportunities for both professional and personal skill improvement. Many reasons exist to indicate the demand to lifelong learning in the 21st century as increasing access to information, warp and fast technology changes, and enhancing global interactions, industry shifts, and skill requirements. In recent times, the term of lifelong education has been substituted by lifelong learning in the literature and policy discussions. This occurred for the term of adult learning to replace adult education, as Courtney states. He says that the terms such as adult education, CE, lifelong learning, independent learning projects, community education, community development, adult learning, pedagogy, adult basic education have all been used to explain the same thing at one time or another. Sorry about that, trying to mute myself so I can cough here. All right, so interesting introduction. There are a few grammar issues here, but not too bad. I am assuming it was translated since this is from Iran. Okay, I'm not going to read all that small print. A demand to developmental needs, including learning needs, is felt for adults as well as the children and adolescents. The important difference is that there are not as many facilitators in later life. Lifelong learning enables us to acquire skills for survival, something necessary to continue to live or exist. It seems kind of obvious. This may seem dramatic, but it is about to learn how to live. It is about learning how to live. This article seeks to present the concept of the term, enabling one to realize the demand to continuing education and lifelong learning in the 21st century. 2, material and method. This paper reviews the process of different forms of learning that takes place in one's life, gives the concept of continuing education. It begins with presenting a definition of the topic, describes various forms of learning, and presents the main potential benefits of continuing learning and education. It prepares a ground to realize the demand to continuing education or lifelong learning to adapt and live in this ever-changing world. Key issues were identified through review of literature on the continuing education and through review of literature on lifelong learning. I'm stumbling a little bit because there are a lot of mistakes in here. They should have contacted me. They should have contacted Ron. Anyway, I do teach adult students English and English writing, and some of this could be corrected. Of course, nowadays they will probably run it through a AI process and clean that up a little bit more. This was written a little bit before that. So yes, true, lifelong learning. I think it is, you know, you don't want to be too dramatic, but it can definitely help with your survival. Maybe you wouldn't die without it, but you can certainly do much better. And in some cases, it could be the difference between succeeding and living well and not succeeding and perishing. I think that may be a little dramatic, but okay, let's go. Results, number 3. People continuously learn, gain knowledge and new skills in schools, at home, on the job, or in the community. This is continuing education. The term is used mainly in the United States and Canada, which is called further education in the United Kingdom and Ireland. That is a broad term encompassing a wide spectrum of post-secondary learning activities and programs. Continuing education learning takes place almost at all times in anywhere actually. Age, 0 to 5 years. At early ages of life, a lot of learning takes place that prepares a foundation for further learning in the future. Learning in these ages is mainly informal, occurs in children by copying almost everything from their parents, peers, and contexts. Yes, so parents, modeling is an excellent idea. So make sure you're reading to your children, but also reading for yourself so they're watching you read as you grow up. I've mentioned that many times. Age 6 to 24 years. At these ages, learning takes place in educational institutions from primary and secondary to tertiary levels. Individuals learn from family life, social organizations, religious institutions, and mass media. Age 25 to 60 years, adults learn informally, mainly via the use of instructional media from their jobs, work environments, colleagues, touring, mass media, information technologies, and nature. They learn from their experiences and ways of problem solving. So they demand continuous development of intellect and steady improvement of skill. Age 60 plus years, people in elder ages learn a great deal from activities suitable to their age. Hmm. They can learn from art, music, sports for the elderly, handicrafts, and social work. They can also participate in voluntary works in community organizations, clubs, and associations. Okay, but I think these separations are, yeah, there's a lot of overlap, right? And there's a lot of people 60 plus that do a lot of learning in academic settings as well. And it's not just sports for the elderly. So, yeah, I may have a few issues with that. Therefore, learning includes various forms of formal, informal, and non-formal learning as defined by Philippe Tissot in the following. Formal learning is the learning that occurs in an organized and structured context, formal education, in-company training. This form is designed as learning and may lead to formal recognition. You could get a diploma or a certificate. Non-formal learning is the learning driven in planned activities. This form of learning is not explicitly designated as learning, but it encompasses an important part of learning, such as vocational skills that are acquired at the work environments. Informal learning is defined as learning achieved from daily life activities related to family, work, or leisure. It is often referred to as experiential learning and can, to a degree, be understood as accidental learning. Yes, to a degree, perhaps, but um, yeah, sometimes you do your academic learning or your book learning, they sometimes call it. But then when you get into a specific job, for example, I used to be a cook. I worked in several different restaurants, and I often was responsible for hiring and unfortunately sometimes firing, but mostly hiring and working with new people in the kitchen. And some of the ones that we hired were, they had gone to college, they had learned about cooking and sanitation and food safety, etc. However, that was in a very controlled environment where they had a lot of people and they often were only doing a few of the jobs and not all of the jobs that had to be handled in the actual restaurant environment. So they had to learn, and so they're calling this non-formal learning. I'm not sure I agree with all these labels, but they had to learn and in some cases relearn because some of what was taught in the college would not work in real case scenario, at least not in the restaurants that I worked in. And so there was an extra learning component to that. And informal learning, yes. I don't know if it's accidental learning. I guess you could think of it that way because sometimes we're learning when we don't really think we're learning. But you know, when you travel and when you're talking to your family members or coworkers, etc., we are always, hopefully, we are always learning if we're open to it. If our minds are closed, then some people don't learn much. Identifying and valuing all forms of learning is essential. I agree. Continuing education benefits all individuals, communities, and the country's economy as continuing education prepares for individuals, citizens, and workers the required knowledge, skills, values, attitudes, and understanding in their life. Continuing education leads to more productive and innovative communities as workers make and find new capabilities and opinions. A constant change and update in workplace is seen in this new economic community. Therefore, those who want to cope better with the demands of workplace changes are those who constantly learn new skills and train for new challenges. Yes, things change. What's acceptable in society has changed over decades. And so if you've been out of the sort of workplace for a long time and go back, it might be a bit of a challenge at first to learn these changes that have happened. Continuing education strengthens the economy. Acquiring more skills, knowledge, and ability by individual leads to a higher capacity in the economy. A stronger economy means citizens have the opportunity to earn more, live better, and contribute to the economic system. And they may say more about this later, but I'm going to say it now. With my students, especially my younger students, they say, "Oh, why do I have to learn this? Oh, why do I don't, I'm never going to use history. I'm never going to use algebra. I'm never going to use whatever. Just pick a topic." um, but You don't know for sure what you're going to use. And the idea is that you're training your brain to learn all kinds of different things and to be able to incorporate them and network that information. And it all will come in handy when you're trying to learn a new job, when you have to take a new course, when you upgrading or whatever. So don't limit yourself. I don't see why you should want to limit yourself. And everything's interesting if you just engage with it. And yes, that can help the economy because if you have more citizens that are flexible, that are able to shift when the jobs shift, either the whole job situation in a country or you're in the same job, but the technology has shifted and you need to learn that new technology. You're available to learn that because you've learned so many things before. Some you will have forgotten, but uh, it's still up here. You'll relearn. Discussion. The concept of lifelong learning has been popularized over the past decade. Organizations rapidly change to adapt to industry changes, to recognize the barriers of improvements, and to solve these problems. Individuals enhance the capacity to address organizational requirements through lifelong learning. Some important features of lifelong learning are duration, learner-centered perspective, multi-level and multi-subject learning, and open access. Continuing education must be appropriate to the content and the purpose of learning. Internet and satellite technology draw individuals in educational coursework on the job or at home. That leads to a great savings of travel costs and time. The study population is growing larger and becomes older, so they have additional obligations such as work and family for the most part. Therefore, a flexible learning framework is needed to enable one to learn at all times and all places. Because of the difference between individuals, there is a need to an adjustable pace and way of study suitable to the individual's capabilities. The adult learning market is going to become more competitive as well as full of opportunities for both the existing institutions and new entrants. Combination of increasing competition and the requirement to keep updated professionally with a rising standard of living and more leisure time have made studying an ongoing process of lifelong learning. Pierce et al. Noted that adult education is seeking for recognition as a profession and is suffering from an identity crisis. They cited Foster, who lists 4 categories of antidotes, antidotes for the recovery of adult literacy as what should be trained, who will be trained, modes and styles, and assessment and evaluation. Continuing education is about what, how, and when one wants to learn. Continuing education helps one to achieve her high school diploma, to study at a post-secondary education, or institution I would put there, to acquire new skills or get a job. Continuing education helps individuals to grow professionally with the latest technologies, knowledge, and skills that lead to keep the job, achieve a new job, or change careers through continuing education. Continuing education can typically be broken down into 3 types. Formal education, designed and planned education, training, or professional enhancement that occur in a school, in the workplace, or through a professional credit granting organization. Learning takes place according to the determined rules of the school, and the education should be arranged to end within timelines. Leads to a formal certificate or diploma. Non-formal education, training, or professional development that are arranged by educational institutions and training organizations in society, more adjustable to the student's needs. According to the program, it does not always lead to a formal certification. And informal education, and gaining knowledge and skills from daily experiences at home, in the society, or at work. Education to improve individuals may lead to a certification, but not always. Lifelong learning includes all strategies and programs taking place during an individual's life to make opportunities to learn. It is a process of continuous education throughout someone's life, addressing the needs of both the individual and that of the relevant community. This idea will be facilitated by bringing together education and vocational education in central aspects of different policies such as youth, employment, and research, Oh, it just ends there. I thought there was going to be another one. In lifelong learning practices, individuals choose among learning environments, jobs, regions, and countries in order to improve their knowledge, skills, and competencies, and also to use them optimally. Organizations need continuing education as a means to enhance the skills and knowledge of workforce. That sentence is terrible. Individuals use continuing education for upward career movement, job enhancement, and personal achievement. Many benefits are ascribed to continuing education as skills development, develop job opportunities, change occupation or get an advancement, upgrade or learn new skills and develop abilities, get exposure to new ideas and best practices, increase one's competition in the job market, help to go on with technology and industry, turn works to jobs with joy, help to cope when there's economic downturns, and develop one's professional network. Turn works to jobs, which I'm not entirely sure what they're trying to say there. It's not worded very well at all. There are quite a few problems grammatically throughout this article. But I agree with most of the points that they're making. And I already mentioned before, yeah, sometimes you may need to change a job or your job is changing. So learning and being ahead of that curve can be very helpful personally for yourself, but also for the industry, for the wherever you're working, and also for the society. So because everything will continue to move smoothly and as we learn. Academic development, you want to maybe obtain a high school diploma, develop primary literacy, provide necessities for continuing education and prepare someone for college or university, regain studies to enhance the academic grade point average, or qualify for academic scholarships. And personal development, develop new interests, become aware of various topics, meet new people and expand your network, deal with one's community, realize problems affecting one and one's community, and enhance self-esteem. Okay, we're almost to the end, so I'll leave my little chat for a minute. 5, conclusion. The terms of lifelong learning means that education is varying according to the individual's needs and is accessible all over their lives, well, throughout their lives. Lifelong learning is continuing education, including designs and strategies of organization, a key tool of speeding up to adapt to modern technologies. It is an ongoing education and learning in formal, non-formal, and informal forms from cradle to grave, making knowledge to improve quality of life. Lifelong learning is providing or using all types of learning opportunities over individuals' lives to encourage the continuous development and enhancement of the knowledge and skills that are occupationally required and also for personal satisfaction, I should say, really. Many benefits are ascribed to continuing education that includes individual, community, and country economy. Continuing education leads to skills, academic, and personal development. We live in a world where individuals should possess the abilities to understand, explain, and process the information. So we should identify and value different kinds of learning and education. I'm just going to scroll up here a bit. Back to this. All right, overall, I agree with many of the points that are being made here. Some of, as I say, there's a bit of maybe translation issues or whatever, but or English issues. But on the whole, I agree with what they're saying. I think there's a lot of overlap, and I think sometimes trying to separate the ages, obviously from 0 to 5, most of your learning is going to come from your caregivers, your parents, and then, you're in school, you're in grade school, you're in high school. So throughout those years, it's mostly academic learning, but even then, you're learning from your experience with friends, with others, maybe part-time jobs, especially by the time you get to secondary school. And then as adults, yes, you learn in the workplace, that's true, but you can continue your education at academic institutions, especially today when there's so much that you can do online and at different times, which they do mention, the flexibility of time. But as senior citizens, I maybe most disagree with that. I wonder why. Because they continue to learn at academic institutions as well, colleges, universities. Um, some of them go back to get their high school diploma. I think they did kind of mention that, but separately from when they had the age ranges there. And they can also learn on the job. And if they're retired and not working officially, they can still learn from other people and also from children. Children can teach us a lot at any age. So I think children can learn a lot from adults and from seniors, and seniors and adults can learn a lot from children. There's a lot of overlap there. And yes, I think having a better educated citizenry, society is good for everyone. It sort of lifts all ships, let's say. Um, you They will be able to vote if you're in a democratic society, at least more intelligently. They will be able to reason and figure out what makes sense, what works, what doesn't work. They'll be able to know how to look at evidence and use evidence in a way that makes sense and comes up with, at least most of the time, correct conclusions, rather than getting caught up in conspiracy theories and popular views that are all over social media and online. So the social media and online is amazing for what we can do, but it's also very detrimental to one's soul sometimes and has a lot of misinformation as well. So being educated helps you to weed out what is incorrect information and what is potentially correct information. And then you can go on to sort of network that and check to see, is it actually, and learning how to do that is a very important aspect of learning, I would think. Yes, and just personally, and your own personal development, you feel better when you increase and improve your skills, whether that's your reading skills, your writing skills. That's I teach a lot of people reading comprehension, and writing skills in English, but also math skills or any of your specific interests. It could be a hobby that you just started for fun, but then you learn more and more and more. That happens a lot, particularly with people who are retired. But even if you're working, if you have enough time, a hobby can become a real learning experience, and it gives you great personal satisfaction. But sometimes it turns into making you some money as well, and also helping the community also through volunteer work. Or just providing a service or a product that the community needs. So there's a lot that can be gained from continuing education and lifelong learning. I'm going to stop the share for a minute, go back to the video. I tried to cover that without making the video extra long, but it's such an interesting topic. I could keep on talking about it, but I won't, I promise. But I hope that you will continue to educate yourself in whatever way you want, whether it's formal learning, informal learning, non-formal learning. The labels don't really matter. What matters is that you learn from any experience that you have, any movie you watch, any book you read, anyone you talk to, your grandparents, your children, your grandchildren, your colleagues. And of course, then you obviously want to try to upgrade as much as you can. Whatever job you're in, learn as much as you can. Will you ever become the foreman or the manager or I don't know, whatever the top person is? Maybe not, but the more you learn, the more likely that could happen. And also, if you move into another position, they might be shocked to find out, wow, this person knows all about the finances or knows an awful lot about spreadsheets or knows an awful lot about whatever, writing blogs or writing advertising material or photography, whatever. and and so it can put you in a very good standing for the job you're in now, or for another job, or for a hobby you might take up later, or some other interest, and just in terms of personal development. So there's an awful lot to lifelong learning or continuing education. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. If you don't mind, check in the description below. Don't forget also, if you're going to take one of my Udemy courses, send me an email and I can send you a coupon for a massive savings. And they only last for 5 days. Like you have to click on them. Once you're signed on, you can take as long as you like to take the course. That's fine. But the actual savings coupon only lasts for a certain amount of time. So I can't really post it down below. But send me an email. Tell me which course you want to take or courses, and I will send you a coupon or coupons for those courses. uh, Apart from that, let me know what you think of this article or of lifelong learning or continuing education. And and how you're doing with your education. How is it going? Are there any stumbling blocks that you have? Because, we all run into those sometimes. I do too. Some of my students think, oh, learning must always have been easy for you. No, it wasn't. I have, and I still do have certain weaknesses and stumbling blocks that I have to overcome, and I just keep working on it and working on it. And probably when I die, I'll still have some stumbling blocks that I'm working on the last couple of days before I go. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Well, you won't probably, but I will. Anyways, I'm getting a little off track here. Keep learning, keep having fun. Until next time, it's Ron from L.T.L Tutoring Central. Bye bye for now.